Good morning, dear children. Welcome back. In today's session, we will discuss Class 7, Term 3, Unit 2 in Social Science History, Art and Architecture of Tamilnadu. This is part 2 of the video series. Come children, let us learn. Before going into today's session, let us have a recap of what we learned in the last session. We learned about the Pallava epoch. We learned that the Dravidian architecture is of indigenous origin. It advanced over time by a process of evolution. The earliest examples were the 7th century rock-cut shrines at Mahabalipuram. The absence of monuments in South India prior to the 7th century is attributed by scholars to temples or to have been built in wood, which were eventually destroyed by the forces of nature. My dear children, in Tamil Nadu, the stages of evolution of temple architecture are 5. The Pallava epoch, early Chola epoch, later Chola epoch, Vijayanagara or Naik epoch, and the modern epoch. We learned about the Pallava epoch. The Pallava epoch witnessed a transition from the rock-cut to freestanding temples. Rock-cut temples were initially built by carving a rock to the required design, and then rocks were cut to build temples. Pallava king Mahendravarman was a pioneer in rock-cut architecture. The Mandagathapattu temple was the first rock-cut temple built by him. The Shore temple at Mahabalipuram, also called as the 7 pagodas, was built by the Pallava king Narasimhavarman II. It is the oldest structural temple in South India. The structural temples were built using blocks of rocks instead of a whole block as earlier. Narasimhavarman II, also known as Rajasimha, built the Kanchi Kailasnatha temple. The Vaikunta Perumal temple at Kanchipuram was built by Nandivarman II. The Tamil Dravidian tradition is exemplified by rock-cut monuments such as Pancha Pandava Rathas. The Arjunan's pennants carved on the face of a granite boulder is a greater magnificent relief measuring approximately 100 feet by 45 feet. Dears, in this session we will discuss about the Pandya temples in the Pallava epoch. Dear children, the rock-cut and structural temples are a significant part of Pandyan art and architecture. The Vimana and Mandapa are some of the other features of the early Pandyan temples. Groups of small temples are seen at Tiruchirappalli district in Tamil Nadu. Shiva temples have Nandi bull sculpture in front of the Mahamandapa. In the later stage of Pandya rule, finely sculptured idols, gopurams on the Vimanas were developed. The Veduvan Koil in Kalugamalai in Thoothukudi is an unfinished temple which was built during the 8th century by the early Pandyas. This rock-cut temple is notable for its architecture and construction method. With this introduction, let us move to the session. Early Pandyas were the contemporaries of the Pallavas. So, Pandyas ruled along with the Pallavas, early Pandyas. Unlike the Pallavas, Pandyas installed deities in the sanctums in their cave temples. So, unlike the Pallavas, the Pandyas had the deities in the sanctums. More than 50 cave temples have been found in different parts of the Pandyan Empire. You can find more than 50 temples. The most important of them are found in Malayadikurichi, Aanaimalai, Tiruparankundram and Tiruchirappalli. So you can find important temples of the Pandyas in the 4 places. They are Malayadikurichi, Aanaimalai, Tiruparankundram and Tiruchirappalli. Malayadikurichi, 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 Aanaimalai, Anaimalai, Aanaimalai, Tiruparankundram, 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 and Tiruchirappalli, Tirichirappalli. These caves were dedicated to Shiva, Vishnu and Brahma. In the picture you can find the Roka temple architecture of early Pandyas, that is the temple at Malayadi Kurichi, as well as Thiruparakundram rock temple. Now let us learn about some intricacies of the Pandya temples in the Pallava epoch. In the Shiva temple of the Pandyas, the linga, that is a Shivalinga, is carved out of the mother rock. So a single rock is used to carve out the Shivalingam in the Shiva temples. The figure of Nandi is also carved out of the rock. The Shivalingam in the sanctum is installed in the center with enough space all around it. The Shivalingam in the sanctum is installed in the center. You can find the Shivalingam is installed in the center and you have enough space around it so that you can go for a procession. The sanctum has also a drainage canal. That is, it has a drainage canal, maybe for Abhishekam and the water to drain, water or milk to drain out, it has got a drainage canal. The pillars are divided into 3 parts and are of different sizes. The pillars are of different sizes and they are divided into 3 parts. The pillars have no uniform ornamentation. There are no motifs or uniformity in the ornamentation. And children, the backside walls are divided into 4 niches on which bas relief images of Shiva, Vishnu, Durga, Ganapati, Subramanya, Surya, Brahma and Saraswati are carved out. Bas relief or BASRELIEF, bas relief is an artistic technique that is used to design into a surface, that is, you lightly carve a design into the surface. You can find this on coins. You can find the images stamped on them is in bas relief. It looks like a picture that is raised up from a flat background. The Dwarapalas figure on either side of the sanctum. You can find Dwarapalas on either side of the sanctum. The rock cut and structural temples are a significant part of Pandya architecture. You can find rock cut temples as well as structural temples in the Pandya architecture. The illustrious example of a rock cut style is unfinished Kalugumalai Vetuvan Koil temple, which is there in the Thoothukudi district. Dear children, the picture you see is that of the monolithic temple at Kalugumalai. The temple is carved out from a single rock in a rectangular portion measuring around 7.5 meter in depth. It has got an unfinished bottom. The temple sits on the top of a stone hillock on the eastern side. It shares entrance and a walk path from the west side of the hillock with the Kalugumalai Jain beds. The temple was built in the 8th century along with Kalugumalai Jain beds under the patronage of Parangadan Nedunjadiyarin of the early Pandyan era. Dear children, the Vetuvan Koil, a monolithic temple at Kalugumalai, is hewn out of a huge boulder on 4 sides. You can see that there. A single rock is there and it has been carved out. At the top of the temple, sculptures of Uma Maheshwarar, Dakshinamurti, Vishnu and Brahma could be found. So, which is a monolithic temple found at Kalugumalai? It is the Vetuvan Koil. The Meenakshi Amman temple in Madurai and the Nelliyappa temple in Tirunelveli represent examples of Pandya's architectural style. What you see on the picture is the corridor of the Nelliyappa temple in Tirunelveli. The Nelliyappa temple is a temple dedicated to deity Shiva, and Shiva is worshipped as Nelliyappa, represented by Lingam, and his consort Parvati is depicted as Kantimadi Amman. The sanctums of the temple and the gopurams were constructed by Koon Pandyan, who reigned in the 7th century AD. Now let us learn about the sculptures. SCULPTURES, sculptures. It is a making of statues by carving or chiseling. The walls of the caves are decorated with bas reliefs of gods and goddesses. You can find the walls of the caves decorated with the bas reliefs. And it is made up of gods and goddesses. In the case of a structural temple, the walls of the sanctum are free from image decoration. But if it is a structural temple, the walls are free from image decorations. Instead, the superstructures and the pillars have the sculptures. The peripheral things have the sculptures. Sculptures look majestic, having elaborate shoulders, slim bodies, beautiful ornaments and high crowns. So children, the walls are decorated with bas-reliefs and it is made up of gods and goddesses. But in the case of structural temples, the sanctum or the walls of the sanctum are free from any image decorations. But instead of that, the superstructures and pillars have sculptures. And the sculptures are majestic looking and elaborate shoulders, slim bodies and beautiful ornaments and high crowns. What you see on the picture is that of the sculptures in the Vetuvan Koil temple. They are indicative of the Pandyan art during that period. The granite rock looks like a blooming lotus with hills surrounding it on three sides. Dear children, Tiruparankundram, Aanaimalai and Kalugamalai have the bas-relief of many deities like Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma, Parvati, Subramanya, Ganapati and Dakshina Murti. And also these are some remarkable images of the cave temples. Many early Pandya images unearthed from Madurai and its surrounding areas are now in Thirumalai Nayakar Museum at Madurai. Now let us learn about the paintings. Dear children, caves at Sittanvasal, 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 which is 15 kilometers away from Pudukkottai, and at Tirumalapuram in Sankarankoil Taluk, Tirunelveli district have outstanding early Pandya paintings. You can find paintings, Pandya paintings in the caves at Sittanvasal as well as Tirumalapuram in Sankarankoil Taluk in Tirunelveli. So dear children, you can find paintings in two places. One is Sittanvasal in Pudukkottai and Tirumalapuram in Sankarankoil Taluk, Tirunelveli. They have got outstanding early Pandya paintings. Sittanvasal was a residential cave of the Jain monks. You can find Jain monks used to reside in the Sittanvasal. They painted the walls with fresco paintings. Now fresco painting, F-R-E-S-C-O, fresco painting is a type of mural painting technique and they are using painting with water-based paint. They use water-based paint and paint directly onto the wet plaster so that the paint becomes an integral part of the plaster. So that is, the wet plaster is there, on top of that they will use the water-based paint. The most famous example of the fresco type of painting is the Sistine Chapel ceiling by Michelangelo. Fresco means fresh in Italian. Unfortunately, we have lost many of those paintings. So many of the paintings that are available in Sittanvasal as well as Tirumalapuram is lost. Dear children, among the surviving ones, the Lotus Pond is notable for its excellent execution of colors and exposition of the scene. The image of lotus flowers, leaves spread over the pond, animals, elephants, buffaloes, swans and a man who plucks the flower looks brilliant. That is a cave painting of the Sittanvasal. Picture shows that of the paintings on the Sittanvasal caves done in fresco style. Dear children, the Sittanvasal paintings have similarities with the Ajanta paintings. You can see the Ajanta cave paintings. I have shown you one of that type, and it has got similarities to that. The Tirumalaipuram from where we get early Pandya paintings are unfortunately in a damaged condition. The picture shows that of the Tirumalaipuram sculptures. You can see how intricately the designs are made. Time for recap, my dears. In this session, we discussed about the Pandya temples in the Pallava epoch. We learned that the early Pandyas were the contemporaries of the Pallavas. Unlike the Pallavas, Pandyas installed deities in the sanctums in their cave temples. The most important temples are found at Malayadikuruchi, Aanaimalai, Tiruparankundram and Tiruchirappalli. And these caves were dedicated to Shiva, Vishnu and Brahma. Rock-cut and structural temples are a significant part of the Pandya architecture. The illustrious examples of rock-cut style is the unfinished Karugamalai Vetuvan Koval temple. It is a monolithic temple at Karugamalai, hewn out of a huge boulder on 4 sides. Meenakshi Amman temple in Madurai and Nelliyappa temple in Tirunelveli represent examples of Pandya's architectural styles. The walls of the caves are decorated with bas-reliefs of gods and goddesses. And in the case of structural temples, the walls of the sanctum are free from image decorations. Tiruparakundram, Animalai and Karugamalai have the bas-reliefs of many deities like Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma, Parvati, Subramania, Ganapati and Dakshinamurti. The cave paintings at Sittanvasal as well as Tirumalipuram have outstanding early Pandya paintings. The Sittanvasal cave was a residential cave of the Jain monks and they painted the walls with fresco paintings. The Sittanvasal paintings have similarities with the Ajanta paintings. Tirumalipuram, from where we get early Pandya paintings, are in damaged condition. Dear children, in the next session we will discuss about the early Chola epoch. Now it is time for worksheet number 2. Roman number 1, true or false? Rajasimha built the Kanchi Kailasnatha temple. Rajasimha built the Kanchi Kailasnatha temple. Question number 2. Early Pandyas were the contemporaries of later Cholas. Early Pandyas were the contemporaries of later Cholas. Roman number 2. Answer the following. Question number 1. Throw light on the paintings of Sittanvasal. Throw light on the paintings of Sittanvasal. With that, we wind up today's session, my dear children. Thank you for watching. For more videos, please subscribe our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Samacheer Kalvi Guide. Thank you.